this is the one of the problems, that you believe it's your forest. I think people need to realize that this is like planet Earth, and it's ridiculous that we consider ourselves owners.
This is The Butterfly Effect, a podcast that shows the big impact a small action can do. Tali Orad is talking to those special people that make a difference with nature and trees.
Welcome everyone to this episode of The Butterfly Effect. My name is Tali Orad. I'm your host and your butterfly here. And I am so excited for this episode because I have a very special guest, Ariana Ivan. Ariana has built social impact businesses from fashion to education, and today her mission is to create models that make forests profitable without cutting or degrading them. She believes in a world where forests don't have to be saved and people live in healthy life as part of nature. Welcome, Ariana. This is so exciting. You're somewhere looking at the forest in California. How fun!
Yeah, I know.
I knew you were coming from education. I didn't know you had a transition from fashion to education and now trees. That's surprising.
When I was 16, I started an education startup. And then after that, I wanted to work in PR. And I was focusing on luxury fashion. So I realized what's happening behind the scene and how clothes are produced and how fashion brands are built. I was shocked and disgusted. So I wanted to make a change and have a sustainable fashion brand. So I moved to Berlin and I started a sustainable fashion brand there, producing business women wear more. And we did that for a year. Then I did like a fashion tech accelerator in Barcelona, and that was great. But I realized having an accelerator was not at that time my passion. I switched to like again education, going back to where I started.
And now you're buying forests. What made you do that?
There are two stories to it. It's a bit crazy. The first story, the novel one, was that I grew up relatively in nature, and I love being in the middle of forest or in the middle of water. When I came back to Romania a few years ago, I saw how like the mountains were empty and there was massive logging. It made me so sad. A year or two later, I was at the World Economic Forum and I met someone that also wanted to make a change. I was like, well, let's do it. And then, like, a few months after that, we had a whole organization put together. And then a few months after that, we had our first two forests saved.
What an inspiring story.
That happened in Europe last year, and the organization is called Secure Forest. It's a collaboration between Germany and Romania in terms of co founders. Now, because this year I came to San Francisco in February, and I actually came here just for a week. Fell in love more with the city and the nature. So I stayed more, and then the lockdown happened, and I decided to stay even more. And I started to research. I'm in this country. What's the state of nature and the forest here? I realized that there are like the same situation is happening here in the US, where people just cut down forests, and the way they advertise forests is like, buy this forest, it's good, you can do also logging on it. So I was like, well, I started by myself, and then I've gathered more people around that. Now I have like two other partners for US.
And it is called 108 Forests. What's the reason behind this number?
It's a bit of a spiritual number for me. It means unity, oneness, emptiness, and just eternity, like numbers wise.
Oh my God, this is beautiful.
So for me, it's like this, like I want this organization to last forever and have every year or every 5 years have different directors coming on board and just continue saving forests for as long as we exist.
So run me through the process. How do you find the forest?
There are certain areas where there is more logging than others. We look at the areas to begin with that you can see a lot of logging.
Hmm.
So that's like just usually on the map and then some research on Google. And then we go there and we see what's the state and how many villages are around. And we talk to villagers and we understand from their perspective what's happening. And we understand, is it more like sustainable logging or is it damaging logging? And then is it like illegal logging as well? Like, what's the status? Either we look online for forests that people are selling in that area, or we talk directly to the villagers and they tell us that person sells. And then we talk to them and say, hey, we want to save them from deforestation. So if you give them to us, we're going to put them in this trust and no one is going to be able to touch them. And we're going to save the animals, we're going to save the soil, we're going to make sure that it's just a healthy forest. And you receive the same money as if you were sell it to like a corporate.
And does it help when you come with more of a personal or nature reason?
They say like, wow, that's amazing, but I don't know if they care.
And where is the funding coming from?
The funding usually comes from impact investors, philanthropists, or different foundations. In Europe, the funding has come from philanthropists. In the US, because I've discovered a new model that we can actually make profit with forests, we're focusing on impact investors and we are able to create a model, like a dividend model, that allows annual return of their investment once the company is profitable. And the way we make the company profitable is by building ethical projects on and around the forest, projects that are like not going to damage the forest.
Can you share some example of those projects?
Yeah, so we've implemented in Europe, in Portugal, agroforestry projects. Then there is a combination between eco villages and ethical tourism where people come and meditate, and there's a big focus on health where people can do therapy, where they can come and connect, do self-reflection, and have this like guided experience where they connect to themselves while they are connected to nature. The other stuff are tech solutions that are focused on forestry management because we need to gather a lot of data. The forestry management challenge is like an entire thing in itself. So right now there are a lot of startups that come with a lot of solutions on how to manage forest and just natural landscapes. So we can do that as well. It's like a forest incubator.
And in the meantime, who manages all of that?
We actually realized that legally we're able to separate the concept of ownership from land working rights, which means that people that want to become forest caretakers, they're able to come and say, hey, this is the project that I want to create on the forest. It's in line with your guidelines and it's for this period of time. We are able to award these people the forest rights and they're able to create these businesses on the forest.
So in a way, kind of like governing the forest.
Yeah, exactly.
How come the government is not doing that?
Forests have been managed by locals and they have not interacted with such mindset or such solutions. So they don't know that you can actually make money with a forest other than cut it down. Like even like a month ago I had people come to me, like foresters and students from forestry schools come to me and be like, I grew up in the forest. I know that you cannot make money with a forest. You have to cut the forest down if you want to like get some financial rewards out of it.
So it comes in a way back to education, right?
Yeah,
Educating them of the values in their forest.
exactly. Right now, we need forests so much. Like they grew up in the families where there was enough forest in their mindset. They were not doing like massive logging. They were just cutting trees once in a while. But now we're doing massive logging and we're destroying lots of hectares.
Also in the United States, I'm surprised because I thought,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm wrong, right? But I thought that most of the wood material we get from Brazil and Canada and even China.
Hmm.
So is this still the case in the United States?
I was going in like forest in California. There was like massive logging being done right on the spot. It's government forest. And what I understand is that usually the foresters, people think that the forester's job is to take care of the forest. But my understanding from certain lawyers is that they actually also look for partners to do logging. And if you tell that to them, they're going to be like, yeah, but it's sustainable logging.
Sustainable logging is designed that loggers can harvest trees without completely wiping out the forest, right?
Hmm.
Some will define it as balancing between the environment needs, the wildlife, and the forest community,
Hmm.
supporting decent income while considering the forest.
And then you go into the forest and you see that there you have like some beautiful, huge trees. And then a massive part of that forest is just like mini trees that are growing. I think in a few years, you're going to find yourself walking in a forest that is like until your knees or something. So I was like, whoa, that's intense. And I think we need to stop cutting century old and like just virgin forests and maybe create more wood farms.
So it's interesting that you say that because there are alternative to logging wood. There is bamboo, right?
Bamboo and like just like I think like wood farms, because we all love wood. Like wood has like this charm to it. Like houses are beautiful, furniture is beautiful. So like saying like, oh, don't cut forests now and don't make like wood furniture is kind of like bad.
It sounds as though that you have plenty of bureaucracy.
There are so many steps. You have to work with the government and make security contracts. You have to hire to like work with the forestry organization and coordinate with them. There's like a lot of even taxes that you have to pay to just save a forest.
And it seems like it's worth it, right?
Of course, like, do you like to breathe?
Listen, I know sometimes when you have a mission, you feel like it's a uphill battle. But
Yeah.
when you remember that there is a cause for all of that, it makes it bearable.
The way I look at it is that these are challenges. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard." I get super annoyed when people say everything is hard. Walking is hard. Everything is a challenge and it's fun. And I'm curious, like, what's next that is gonna try to stop this?
So when you talk about challenges, what else is a challenge for you? What's the biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge is at the intersection of how can we help the locals, because every forest has villages around it. How can we help those people support the forest, have financial rewards out of it? Because usually those areas, also their job is to like work for the logging companies. The education levels might not be as high. How can we engage these people as well that have such valuable knowledge, wisdom about trees and soil and air and plants? It's so valuable, and bring entrepreneurs that are in the technology field, science, and all sorts of like so-called innovative areas, and bring them together to understand how can we actually be financially healthy but also have a healthy forest, because it's challenging. If you want to create an eco resort, then you have to be super super careful not to actually make more damage. So I'm still like looking at what are the best businesses to create so that we're able to create a healthy environment for the forest and people.
Do you have any example on forest that you did that and is successful?
In Portugal, the biggest success was that there were the young entrepreneurs from that area that came and said, hey, with this type of trees we can combine it with this type of agriculture, and this is the result. I saw that combining agriculture with forest, that's something that is healthy. And someone the other day was focusing on mushrooms, because mushrooms are like the happiest in between the trees from my understanding.
Yeah. The network underneath.
Yeah,
Yes, connect them all. Mhm.
I think that's a start. I see that good results are coming from health, bringing people to the forest for health reasons, mind and body.
Mhm.
So these are the two success cases.
And how is it different in Portugal and Romania than California?
The biggest difference is the investment needed. In Europe, you talk about six digits numbers, and here you talk about minimum 5 million. Definitely, like investment wise, is much more challenging.
Mm-hmm. And what else?
Here, what I've came across is these forest fires that everyone is scared of.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see about that. Maybe that's the next challenge as well.
Maybe you can solve that while you've saved the forest.
Yeah.
And how do you see that connection with the trees and forest and nature impact your life?
I feel connected and aligned. I think that I don't think, I know that when I'm in the forest next to a tree, I feel that I can breathe, just be in the very present moment. I'm not realizing where I am or like what's happening in the world. It's just me cracking sounds and the birds, and it's just so peaceful. And then you realize about like what's important to you and what's not important to you, and you get into slow pace and be patient and just breathe.
Sounds like it grounds you.
Yes, that's what it does.
And no wonder you're a 1 trillion ambassador because you love the trees and you're doing everything you can to protect them. And we
Yes.
truly appreciate that. What advice would you give one that wants to spend more time in nature but just don't? You know, it's one of the things you really, really want to do and eventually procrastinate. Like, I don't know, exercising,
Hmm.
dieting, let's go out in nature.
It's about investing in your health. Instead, if you don't feel like exercising, you can go to nature, and it has this effect on you of calming your body and your mind. Maybe you want to think about it that way.
There is in Japan thing that is called the forest bath, that
Yeah.
you go in nature to relax.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, I've heard this concept has started to be implemented by a lot of spas across Europe, and people love it.
There is a resort in Bali,
Yeah.
the hotel built out of bamboo completely, not wood,
Yeah.
which bring us back to the alternative to wood, and it's breathtaking. I mean, I was there, it was beautiful. And you appreciate nature because you're part of it, and everything that you eat there is grown there. You can open your window and you're outside in nature
Hmm.
and you feel peaceful, and it is just relaxing.
That's beautiful.
Maybe as part of your ecotourism.
And be like
Mhm.
very environmentally friendly.
I mean, we talked about taking down the trees for the profit of whomever is using them. But there's also the loggers, right? Once you take down the opportunity for them to cut the trees, there is no job for them. Do you suggest anything to them?
The interesting thing is that these people have a lot of knowledge about trees, and we need that knowledge to use it for gathering data, to use it for keeping the forest healthy.
Hmm.
Maybe they can transition from people that cut down the forest to people that can protect the forest.
I'm all up for it.
I will let you know when that happens.
One of the reasons we have the butterfly effect is, one, we know one action has some sort of reaction that we sometimes know about, sometimes we don't know about. Reason I want to share those is, first of all, great stories,
Hmm.
positive stories, hopeful stories, but also when I share them, others learn from it. And as we're not competing on planting trees, we're obviously not competing on, let's see who saves the forest the
Of
best. Let's
course.
just say saves the
Oh,
forest.
this is another thing that I've encountered. It creates this competition between people, which is insane, in a sense that it's insane that people believe that it's a competition who saves more forests, which is on one side is like, oh my God, why? And then on the other side is like, yes, I love this competition. Let's see who saves more forests.
So you saw when you tried to buy a forest that somebody outbid you to save the forest?
It didn't happen to me, but I see it around me when other organizations, and I see how other people in the industry react, and they're like, if we partner up with someone, and some people might be like, no, like let's make sure we don't like disclose too much with the other people. I'm like, what are you talking about? I want to partner up with everyone and save forests with everyone. This is not like some IP that we're talking about. This is us saving forests together.
Yes.
How can you even think like that?
So let's think positive. Let's think of, okay, now that we are talking, we are inspiring somebody that is listening. And thank you so much for listening
Yes.
to save a forest. What will be, I don't know, your 3 tips to them on how to save a forest?
The first one is to look at an area that is actually in need. Yeah, the second is to like go there and see the state. And the third is to make sure that the legal documents are all in place, because usually people that have forests have these like very old documents, so you should be careful.
And after you've figured out all 3, then just have it? Or do
Yeah.
you do anything you do?
I mean, ideally, you'd come to us and you'd be like, "Can I put this forest under the foundation so that we make sure it's gonna be there and it's gonna be protected, and we're able to create conservation, regeneration plans and protect it, and even make it profitable for you."
How does the foundation do all of that?
Basically, donate that forest, and then we make a legal partnership with you. Depending on the terms, you get returns back. And then we work with people that have done conservation and regeneration plans. So we go with them in the forest and assess it. They create a plan for us. And then we just need to maintain it, gather more people and more locals to implement the plan that they're creating.
Okay, let's assume I bought a forest
Yeah.
and I want to donate it to 108 Forests.
Yes.
And then what? I lost my forest. It became your forest.
This is one of the problems, that you believe it's your forest. I think people need to realize that this is planet Earth, and it's ridiculous that we consider ourselves owners. This is why the slogan that I have is from owners to caretakers. So instead of an owner, you become a caretaker.
Hmm.
So you don't lose the forest. You can see it as that you're invested money in saving the forest, and now we are going to invest more to keep it there. And we're able to share the profits with you. If we create any health solutions on it, if we create any agroforestry or ethical tourism on it, those money are going to go to you as well, unless you want to make it your full-time job.
Whoever listened, I hope you took notes.
I want as many people to do this as possible.
We spoke on the forest. Now, it's a question I ask all guests, and I hope you have an answer. And if you don't, you need to figure one out. What is your favorite tree?
It's called mimosa. It's this tree that,
That's a drink. Wait, that's a drink.
well, that's a tree too. So it's this tree that has like this fluffy pink flowers in it, that it smells so good. And then when you bring it close to your face, it's so smooth. It's so pretty. And it smells like perfume, like a very sweet perfume.
Where does it grow?
It's a lot in Romania. I saw it here as well in San Francisco.
It's a tree that brings you back to childhood.
It was like in front of my house since I was born.
Did you climb on it?
No. But now when I'm gonna go back, I will.
You were born in Romania.
Yeah.
How do you say tree in Romanian?
Copac.
Copac.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So copac is a tree. And how do you say a butterfly?
Fluture.
Fluture.
Yes.
Okay.
But don't ask me
Okay.
more.
Thank you so much, Ariana.
Thank you as well. I'm happy we talked.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We are all beautiful butterflies, each in his and her individual ways. I wanted to thank you for joining me today in this episode. I really appreciate you coming on this journey with me, and I hope to see you next time. And remember, it only takes a small action to make a big difference. Be a butterfly.
And that's all for this episode. Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe to hear more of our stories of change.